Hey fellas, and welcome back to Quite with a Y, another video today. Today we're going to be talking, this topic actually comes directly from an email I got, where a dude asked literally for just my thoughts on chairs. When I said that almost any topic can be a video if you send it to kwytebox, I was not kidding. Thank you for this idea, Chris. It is very dumb. He basically told me he thought that I could talk about chairs for hours, and I can't. The thing is, it's only something I realized when this guy told me he thought he could, and I started thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, I got a lot to say. But I am gonna hone in for this video's sake and keep it to the 5 chairs I've used the most over my lifetime. 4 of the chairs are the ones I used at home over my life at my setup, my humble beginnings until upgrading till now, basically. And the 5th is actually a very broad group of chairs, but one that I think you'll understand, where I'm putting all school chairs together. As far as like chair class goes, school desk ones probably have the total record for most hours being sat on of any other type. This is the type of chair that is probably most instantly recognizable to most Americans and even Canadians, maybe. We quite literally grew up in them, and we could mark how tall we were getting based on how difficult it was to sit in them. And I will say, for being made of like a ceramic polymer or whatever it's made of, it's surprisingly comfortable, especially since it's like formula made. Don't get me wrong, surprisingly comfortable doesn't mean it even levels up to like average comfort. Sitting in that thing could absolutely break your back if it put its mind to it. It was very firm. You're essentially putting your back on a curved brick wall. You're practically sitting on rocks. It's like you're living in Markarth, man. But while they could break backs in the paralyzed for life kind of way, they could also break backs as a form of massage therapy. We've all known multiple people in our lives, a lot of us probably have done it ourselves, who could just twist in such a specific way on those chairs to get the most bone-crunching noise to come out of their spine. A lot of people were shocked and disgusted, caught off guard before then asking, "Dude, how did you do that?" There's a natural urge to achieve a quality back crack. I kinda gotta sandwich that compliment though by saying another negative thing. Sure, the seat feeling like it was made out of hard plastic and aluminum like wasn't great for comfort, but also those got so cold. I don't know if y'all did it on a class basis or the whole school building was one temperature, but if whoever was in control of the thermostat decided to like keep it at 68 or 69 and not bump it at all, it basically turns your classroom into the frozen crusty crab. You touch any liquid in there and it's already frozen by the time you've made contact. If I sat in one of these school desk chairs while it was cold in a classroom, and then because of the way I hit the chair, my shorts rode up a bit, and then my skin of my thighs made contact with the chair, I was basically dead. It felt like putting ice cubes in my ass. It just shocked the whole nervous system down there. I could feel it on the tip of my dick. And somehow, those manipulative ass teachers used those chairs as an asset against us third graders. They used us for free labor to stack the chairs on the desks for the janitors because the teacher knew that doing so would make us feel big and strong. They just had to frame it in a way that appealed to our very, very young minds. They weren't done developing. There was no way we could have known better. All I'm saying is that's a pretty big loophole for child labor laws and should probably be looked into. Now, while a lot of us had the whole stacking the chair on top of the desk thing, other folks just would never have that option in their life. I've seen them, obviously, in singular amounts, but I cannot believe that the chairs actually attached to the desks are real. Those seem awful, man. Like, there's just an explicit width limit on how big you could be to sit in one of those things. If your legs are too long, if you're too wide of a person, if you're too muscular like me, it's just not gonna be a good time squeezing into there. And if you're taking up all the space, there's no way you can, like, scoot back and stick your arm under the desk to get something you need to like write down on. I would take the stacking chairs either in towers or on desks any day over having those combined desk chairs. I hate that. I don't know when I stopped seeing them, but I also remember when I was real young, like elementary school, they used to put tennis balls on the legs of the chairs. I think that was partially so if a kid accidentally dropped the leg of the chair on their toes, it wouldn't like break them all in one go. But also it made them slide around easier, which was helpful. And people would take them off the chairs and chuck them at each other all the damn time. I'm probably not giving y'all any new information here. I think in hindsight, as I saw them less and less, I could have taken as a sign of, you know, the years passing, you're getting older. The idea of the desk chair that most people have, I feel, is the one that we saw mostly in elementary and middle school. We definitely saw it in high school, but as you were getting older, you were seeing less and less of them. At least when I went to high school, there was a real variety in the types of chairs you might be sitting in on any given day or depending on your classes. Most core subject classrooms had the normal chairs, like that's for sure, but then certain electives had exclusively office chairs that were really comfortable. comfortable. When that first happened, we were absolutely in love with getting these new chairs because they were just nicer than the old ones. And it's not like because we're divorcing that I'm not going to see them. I still have to co-parent them when I get to sit in them in other classes already. But especially in hindsight, it's kind of a metaphor how those chairs slowly disappeared from our lives as we got older in the same way our innocence did. Moving on, we have the absolute, like, most scuffed thing I could give you. It's the wooden sword from Ninja Gaiden, basically. The first chair I had that I used regularly was a extra wooden kitchen chair that I just took and never really gave back because no one asked. The reason I even wanted a chair specifically then is because I was obviously watching YouTube a bunch, I always have, but I was really into those setup videos where people would go through their offices and just talk about all the cool shit they had there, and I was obsessed. I wanted my own. The problem was I didn't even have like a baseline of a shitty version of product I could use. I didn't have a desk or a chair in my bedroom, so I used breakfast tables that were lying around and put two of them next to each other, and then my throne was that wooden kitchen chair. I will say, because of the fact that I used all wood, it did match. It wasn't aesthetically horrendous, as it might have been otherwise. It's nostalgic for me, and I look back fondly on this, knowing where I am now, but these things also fucking sucked, I'm not gonna lie to you. It did have the same issues with getting really cold really easily, but not as bad as the school chairs, and at home, there was at least the possibility of me getting to change the temperature if I wanted to. And the one that I had was the extra one because it was just already falling apart. Some of the sticks that were propping up the chair in the back and were used as the backrest legit were already had their glue dried out, and you could just pull out of there whenever you wanted. Plus I got splinters from it more than a few times, which was not the best, but I mean, you deal with it. It was basically just to have something to sit in at home because I've got nothing right now. I was not really broken up about having to move on to the next thing when I got this mid-office chair for Christmas. I was watching all those setup videos, like I said, so naturally I wanted what all those YouTubers had in their setups, gamer racing chairs, but instead I got this office chair for Christmas. But with the knowledge I have now, that was probably not a bad pick. It was like the first piece of furniture I had to follow the instructions to build myself. Doing that in middle school made me feel so cool and adult, I thought I could move out tomorrow. It was night and day between the office chair and the wooden one, and that's not saying much. It was like going from Guantanamo to stubbing your toe. They're like both undesirable things, but one is hell and one is a minor inconvenience. The chair was like actually cushioned, which was nice for my butt. It was the first chair I'd ever had with adjustable and ergonomic back support that actually tried to support the curvature of your spine at least a little bit, and I definitely didn't go out of my way to sit correctly. I would fidget around a lot, but I like to think that using that chair instead of the wooden one for my puberty years probably saved me from being even a few inches shorter. I'm 5'5" for reference, and the unfortunate part is I'm probably gonna be shorter when I'm dead. My spine will hunch over from further nerd neck, but truth be told, I beat the fuck out of that chair. I had it for years, and goddamn did I use it. There's probably all sorts of disgusting gunk within the cushions. They're attached to the chair, so unfortunately you can't just take them off and throw them in the wash or replace them if they're beyond saving. It was the first chair with a center base I owned, and it really taught me how much dust can build up under your chair. It's like why it's a point in my head to always check how dusty the legs on my current chair is. Because A, it's a satisfying feeling when you get to wipe it away, but also you don't want to let it get to that point, ideally. There's like holes in that damn thing now. If you turn it at all, it makes a gigantic snapping noise. Like, it still works. And despite everything I put it through, I still have it. It's downstairs in my room. It has been such a reliable little butt cushion that I really could not have asked for a better early days partner. My main complaint, though, would be that I couldn't always reach the ground, which was not the issue itself. But because of that, to sit comfortably, I'd go crisscross applesauce or just further gay stereotypes and sit in chairs exclusively in all the wrong ways. But if, like, my feet weren't touching something to anchor the chair down, it would just, like, slowly spin on its own. So I'd be sitting with my knees to my chin just watching a YouTube video, and suddenly I'm spinning away and not looking at the video. I'm like, what? Still, it's a chair that I lounge in occasionally at night before I go to bed. Like, it's still comfortable. I was definitely proud to have a chair like that serve under me. I used it for most of middle school, all the way through high school, and then a little bit after graduating before I upgraded. By the time I did upgrade, it was definitely a long time coming, but I'll never forget Old Faithful. That next chair I bought was the gaming chair of my dreams, the one I'd always wanted. It wasn't like DX Racer or the first brand that comes to mind for these kind of things. I don't know how much of a real difference there is between all of them. They all look the same shape. Fucking rectangles and triangles. If it's got more sides than that, count me out. But it was this brand called Technosport that I picked specifically because I had gotten to sit in one of their chairs at a convention I had went to earlier. And out of all the games I got to try while sitting or booths I'd been to, they had like the most comfortable chairs by far, so I just remembered the brand name. And it was one of the first big purchases I made from the money-making videos that was like a piece of equipment, something really physical. It was personal to me, and it felt like cool actually buying this and putting it together completely with my own stolen merit or something cringe like that. I was acting like I personally designed and developed all the mechanisms inside the chair myself. The thing is, when my mom found out I'd spent that much money on like anything, she was not happy. Here's the thing. It was all like $130. I got the cheapest one they had. That's not a small amount of money, but in the scheme of chairs, like that's me going on the low end for something I'm gonna use a lot. She couldn't really do anything about it because I had already like bought and built the chair. But she came around when I told her this is where I'm gonna be sitting all the time. I need to like invest in this for myself. And also while I was gone, she sat on it once and said, yeah, I get why you got it now. It was really comfortable. Like, yeah, I know, Mom. That's why I fucking bought it. One thing I forgot to mention with the office chair is that when I played VR on it, because I had started getting into the scene back then because I had a PSVR, it was actually pretty easy to play those games sitting down because I could raise the armrests so they were like next to the backrest, and it put them completely out of the way if I wanted to like sling my elbows and arms around to my sides where they usually be. The racing chair was a little less suited to it, but there actually was a decent workaround. You couldn't just completely fold them up like you could on the last chair, but you could swivel them for the angles, and you could also raise and lower them. And putting them at their lowest level brought them down to like top of my thigh, which left plenty of room for the most part to just kind of swing my shit everywhere while still sitting down. That's something about those chairs that I do miss and I don't have with my current one, but we'll get to that. I feel like I beat on this chair even more than the last one. To be fair, that was like when I started working from home full time, so I was also just using the chair at home a lot more than I ever had before. But I'm pretty sure like I unironically cut out a little piece of the armrest so I could see what it looked like on the inside. So now there's just like ugly gashes in the damn thing. It came with a neck pillow, which was actually very comfortable, but the thing is, I would literally beat on it. I used to practice punching that thing because it was like the only soft target size thing in my room at the time, and I did it too much to the point where it just popped the zipper and then there was cotton and fleece just puffing out of it at all times. I could never fix it, but I still used it as a pillow, and I still punched it after that. Very fucking stupid, have not done anything like that with things I care about since. And there was just a lot more surface area on this chair. Like, there was way more places for grime to build up in, and I would be a lot more attentive about where I was using my wet wipes. I think it's the first chair I had a routine where I cleaned it in like set intervals. I wish I had held that habit stronger when I had that chair. You could apparently lay down in these things, like PewDiePie would always talk about with his chair, he could lean all the way back, and mine could too. The thing is, I always got scared when I would start lowering it slowly and would chicken out and sit back up before I'd go all the way. And just my fucking luck, the one time I actually choose to lean all the way back, it falls down immediately. I was fine, but sliding down backwards is not a fun sensation. It was genuinely a massive upgrade for lower back and neck support though. I definitely don't regret getting it because it kind of showed me what parts of my body ache when I'm not supporting them a little bit more. Definitely a step in the right direction. But before we move on to the next chair, I do have one closing story of where that chair is now. I don't have it anymore. I didn't really have a use for it, and it's not like my first chair that's kind of a more neutral thing. This looked very gamer setup. So I basically told my friends if they come pick it up, they can have it for free. And a friend took up the offer. The thing is, I was talking about how grimy this thing could get and how poorly I was treating it, just wiping debris off on it without thinking. And I forgot about that fact before remembering that someone else was going to get to see it commonly now and would in fact now have it to inspect everything that's been done to it. And so not long after that, my friend is just sending me texts and making fun of me because he found fucking booger streaks on the fucking side of the thing, man. I didn't clean them up. I was so embarrassed. I'm happy for him though, because his mindset was at least to get a bag out of it. He was going to try and sell them on eBay. I don't know how much they're worth, but he has an inflated idea of my value, so I'll let him keep thinking like that very ignorantly. He found like some nail clippings, he said, and some stuff that came from the inside of my body. I'm talking about the booger. It doesn't go deeper than that. Moving on from that as fast as I possibly can, the current chair I have, the one I'm sitting in right now while recording this video, is called the Herman Miller. Herman Miller's a brand. They've got different chairs, but in general, it's considered top of the line, industry standard for workplace chairs. High-end office buildings will just be filled with Herman Millers at every desk as standard. If you find a deal on a used one, it is absolutely worth grabbing one of these because they are made to last. They fucking better be too, because a new one is so expensive, man. Like, if I never have to buy a chair again, or at least not for a while, it's probably cheaper than buying a new chair every few years. But goddamn, if it ends up not being the case, I'ma cry. But it is, like, without a competition, the most comfortable chair I've been in. The backrest and the seat itself are meshes, which makes it a little more complicated when I'm putting my socksless feet up on the chair. It might dig into my skin a little more, but I got used to it, and then I formed, like, callus armor over where I was making contact with it. But it makes sure the chair has some give on both parts you're making contact with without creating a bunch of extra surface area that cushion does, and so there's not as much places for dust to build up. The armrests are very sturdy and can swivel side to side, but the major thing I have a problem with in this chair is that it's really fucking impractical to play VR while sitting down in it. There's just no way to play it and not bump my elbows into the armrests all the time, which is such a small issue considering how good of a chair it is, but it's something I used to do a lot that I just don't do as much anymore because of it, which sucks. I did buy a third-party headrest for this thing, and that's a major plus to me. The head/neck rest on the gaming chair was not very good on its own, but was nice to have at all. So I got a nice neck rest, so I got a nice headrest for the already nice chair I had bought, and it went well. Unfortunately, that headrest is a lot more delicate than the actual chair, so I've had to get multiple, but it's whatever. Like I said, these things are real ergonomic, and they literally have different models of each chair. Like the class of chair you want to get from Herman Miller, and then type A, type B, type C. They're made for like different body types so that you get one which is as tailored to how small you are or big you are as possible. I'm obviously using the version made for the shortest person to keep in mind, but I don't regret doing that because it's very, very comfortable. Now, having this almost throne, if we're being honest, kind of did make me feel like I was on top of the world, but I think it's because of that my hubris was able to get the better of me. See, I thought I understood how to clean chairs like this by now. I had made some mistakes on the last one, but I had pulled my act together by the end, even if I didn't clean up old messes, and I learned how generic office chairs worked early on, and I thought, I know what to look for in this one. I'll be able to keep this thing clean easy. This was not the case because the Herman Miller chair is not just any office chair. Under the seat in the center of the chair, there's another plateau that I just hadn't seen before because the mesh looking down while you're sitting on the chair blocks it out of view. And I'm not checking that often from the side, but it's like a platform that dust could build up on, and I had never known existed until like last week. You were basically scooping up lumps by the time it actually got cleaned up. There was new forms of life being birthed in that petri dish. This is overall my favorite chair I've ever had, and it's the one I plan on keeping for the foreseeable future. I just don't really have a good reason to switch. Anyways, those are my opinions on chairs that I've sat in. If you guys have your own, leave them in the comments, and if you want to send me a video idea, hit kwytebox@gmail.com. Anyways, piss off.